look at what I found. An article about Smogon Bans that goes back to 2015, July 6th. Oh, too bad I didn't find this last week for the 8-year anniversary. Also, man, remember like webzines? Bro, actual work and effort went into this, which is pretty crazy. But now we can take a look back with our modern understanding of Pokemon and how the generations and megas played out, and just kind of go through this and see how it all holds up, or since it's Smogon, how it doesn't hold up. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, comment your thoughts down below, get some snacks. This might be a long one since we got a lot of reading to do, but I saw this, I was like, man, this is actually going to be wild. Throughout the history of competitive battling, tiers have always been the great divide that separated the boys from the men. Fuck. The craziest thing about Smogon is that it had like the most support back in the day to where people thought it was the official rules, even though it was at its worst then. Well, actually, okay, the community sentiment and mentality was at its worst because it was all founded in elitism, and I've talked about how that is literally written in the Smogon philosophy. Creativity is ignorance. And then you can kind of see how that plays out into the bans and how everyone was just like, well, I ban everything that beats me, and that makes me a better player than you, pleb that doesn't follow OU and uses bright powder and double team. Trash. You know, it immediately starts off about their tiers. Now, Smogon is the worst because their ban decisions are complete nonsense. We're going to see if they were actually just more nonsense than we remember. So, separates the boys from the men, so to say, and have given Pokemon chances to shine in their respective tiers, instead of actually developing strategy and counters and evolving a metagame to where, you know, it kind of flows through, because tiers have never been a representation of power. It's just usage. When a Pokemon is too powerful for the tier it's in to handle, it undergoes a suspect test. And that's another weird thing about tiers, because like if you could just graduate from UU to OU, well, I mean that means the Pokemon is always OU and players are just too bad to discover it, or Flavor of the Month is just making the entire system fraudulent. Which is where players discuss and express their opinions and experiences of a Pokemon that's thought to be too powerful for the tier to handle. They just say tier to handle twice? Yo, they only know like the same NPC talking points, and they had less back then. After discussion goes on for long enough, voting period begins. Not anymore with the council, tallying the votes of those who have laddered enough to earn voting rights so they can decide the fate of the suspect. We've had many suspect tests throughout generations for many tiers, but OU always got the most attention. I don't know why they throw like the seams in there, because yeah, that's kind of where you get the most play inside of Pokemon. This could not be truer for Generation 6, where it all started going wrong. Many of these Pokemon that were banned are familiar faces from previous generations, so you kind of know what to expect when a suspect test about them occurs, but the new faces that came out about the generation, some people don't know the story behind some of the new Pokemon that were banned, so they might not understand why they were banned in the first place. Sit down, pleb. Let me tell you a story of why Aegislash is too powerful. Because you don't know any better. You weren't there for the suspect test. They might not know why they were banned in the first place, unless they looked all over the forum. And that's enough, like, at least they can acknowledge that. Like, that's worse now than ever. You can't find a single place where all the bans inside of OU are documented, unless, like, you team check your team in Showdown and it says, oh no, you actually can't use this, even though it's not written anywhere, because the bans happen too often, and then there's like too many weird things that just don't get updated because of it. This article could be considered an archive of the new Generation 6 Pokemon. Hey, we're going back through the archive through the article. Neat. So this is an article of Pokemon that were banned from OU, explaining their traits and why they had to be banned, as well as how close or one-sided the voting phases went for each. The crazy thing is, the evasion suspect was like as close as it could get, and then it was just never looked at again when it came to the banning. And then people are just like, evasion bad, because Smogon says so, even though like 32% of people didn't think that. Starting off with a bang, the suspect test on Aegislash was easily the most controversial and heated of them all. Stat-wise, Aegislash doesn't seem all that promising defensively or offensively. What? Even if there wasn't a shield form, even if there wasn't stance change, this would be a trick room monster. Or you do some weird stuff where like you max invest into hit points, find a magical way to take a hit, And this is something I've been breaking down in Smogon Ban decisions forever, where they just put so much fluff, filler nonsense because they don't really have an argument, so they have to just like keep just spewing words into the post until it sounds like they're trying to make something cohesive. But if you actually read it and you use comprehension skills and game understanding, it just doesn't make any sense. And it's also like these weird devil's advocate things where it's like, well, this Pokemon might not be centralizing, or on the surface it may appear, like all of this midwit nonsense, empty language that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, with all the 2 traits put together, Aegislash became a massive pain for teams to handle. Could utilize Shield Form to get its... Oh, now the stats went from not promising to great defensive stats. Even then, like, yeah, Pokemon that's stuck 150, 150, 60, that's God mode defenses. And then as we've learned, this doesn't matter. But while it's true that Blade Form's defenses are abysmal, actually hitting Aegislash in Blade Form can be very tricky without trading blows with it. Isn't that the point of a tanky Pokemon? Also, this is already ignoring damage theory. I wanted to see like what modern Pokemon understanding and all of these things I've been developing that no one else is developing about competitive Pokemon, how they apply to these old school ban decisions or just old school metas. Don't worry, boys. I'm cooking. Just wait until you see the future content I've been thinking about. It's going to get wild. And this kind of backs up into it. So it's like, okay, you trade a blow, but I mean, if you KO Aegislash and it doesn't KO you, you just won the trade. King's Shield can revert instantly back to Shield form with priority, but that's why you hit it first. And then that's why you also don't let it set up 3 Swords Dance so Shadow Sneak starts one-shotting you. You can win the trade at some point if you have actual skill in the game. Aegislash is a purely skill check Pokemon. It might actually be the most skill check Pokemon, or the only truest skill check Pokemon in the game. Aegislash's speed is low enough to outslow every sweeper and most wall breakers while it takes a hit in shield form before launching its own attacks. Speaking of King's Shield, that move was one of the biggest complaints people had about Aegislash, as its effect of lowering the opponent's attack by 2 stages when they make contact with it made many of the physical attackers obsolete in the tier. Okay, then run special attackers or play better and actually outskill on predictions and stuff, or just use non-hitting moves. Like, this is a world where Garchomp exists. Garchomp always gave significant problems to Aegislash. And Landorus as well. So where are we at here? Made them use moves that were only useful for beating Aegislash. Congratulations, meta development. But no, if you have to change one move on one Pokemon because another Pokemon's too common, that's over-centralizing. Forget about Stealth Rocks and Heavy Duty Boots and Defog. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Landorus doesn't count. None of this counts. Only the Pokemon I don't like. Got centralizing. Or would cause mind games that turn a whole battle around. Ooh, mind games. Playing to win condition. Another thing Smogon players don't want, except for double switches. My double switch proves I'm a better player than you, regardless of how the battle plays out. While Aegislash doesn't have particularly expansive move pool, it does boast perfect neutral coverage in Shadow Ball Sacred Sword. And now they're talking about mixed. Same argument as Greninja. Mixed Greninja's just trash, and only theoretically wins if you give it like 1000 EV spread, 3 different items, and 10 different moves. Then yeah, sure, you have a super effective for everything that synergizes into Protean one-shots, okay. But that doesn't ever play out. Like, if you have to split your offenses on 150, now your Aegislash is trash. And as we've kind of learned, or secretly always knew, Life Orb is not an item. Like, okay, your 70% becomes a 90%. You did not win the game, and your Life Orb meant nothing, and now you're splitting even harder to get neutral coverage, which doesn't one-hit KO, unless, like, you're banded 150. But no one can do that on Aegislash, because then you're stuck here. Oh, wait, yeah, you're banded 150, but then you're stuck here. So actually, man, Aegislash might be the most balanced Pokemon of all time, and Smogon couldn't handle it. Because now that we're thinking about damage, oh god, okay, remember when I said I was cooking? I have to do a new cook. New recipe just dropped. Like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Mixed coverage, walling of all kinds. Aegislash also blessed with Ghost Steel typing, granting it 9 resistances, including a Stealth Rock resistance. Always gotta put in those entry hazards. 3 immunities, Toxic immunity, making Aegislash much harder to crack open. Oh no, our Toxic Stall 3 leftover routine doesn't work against Aegislash. Oh no. Aegislash also fairly easy to put onto a team. Several sets available to it, which made it bread and butter mixed attacker. You don't get several sets inside the game. And there's species clause to extra make sure that doesn't happen. So yeah, you needed a... Every team had to prepare for cute Swords Dance set that was popular in X and Y, but became outdated. Only because they're bad players. Like, you always had... Like, Swords Dance was always the best. That was just your sweep condition. Sub-Toxic set that made to cripple walls instead of the mixed attacker set. And then Mandibuzz to pout on. And then also special and mixed sets. Yeah, it was just nonsense. So, Aegislash, a huge blanket check or counter to many of the Pokemon available at the time. Because remember, they banned everything. Mega Mawile, Clefable, Latios, Landorus, Mega Alakazam, Mega Gardevoir, Starmie, Celebi, Raichu, and Mega Medicham. And Mawile got banned. So you banned the thing, and then the less thing, and then counters and checks, and now you don't have a metagame. Really neat. Well-made decision, Smogon. As a result, Aegislash became, there's the word, as its mere presence in OU forced Pokemon to use moves that were only useful in threatening Aegislash over generally more useful moves, such as Tyranitar, Mega Pinsir, Mega Heracross. Mega Pinsir, good Pokemon though. Terrakion having to use Earthquake. Every balanced or offensive team had to run a Mandibuzz and at least 2 offensive checks. God damn, you actually have to make a balanced team build. And many teams were weak to other Pokemon and playstyles as a result. Well, if Aegislash is on 40% of teams, then having to change the playstyle as a result doesn't matter because you're getting wins because of how you're team building. Alright, let's see if we've got it. So the index of Smogon usage stats only goes back to 2014 November. And I don't remember if, like, when the Aegislash was banned, so maybe we have this. So we go OU 1825. Oh, do we just... it doesn't look like we have Aegislash usage stats. I want to see where the usage peaked that made it over-centralizing. Also, Landorus Therian over Greninja. Greninja needs to be banned. Landorus, that's not centralizing Pokemon. It's at the top, but again, screen region, because I'd have to try to fit things in 1080p. Okay, so yeah. Verlisify always right. It all checks out, and it's just one of those things where I've been able to put together better arguments over time to dunk the endless just flood of Smogon players that keep coming at me, and I'm like, alright, yeah, you made a decent point, I just have to, like, think about it a bit differently, and now, okay, I can completely debunk you on every regard. So as I get older, more mature, and just, like, more understanding and applying critical thinking skills and stuff. So yeah, I got pretty close to the mark back then, but again, as, like, more things have developed, now it's just, oh, wow, it doesn't hold up at all. Especially if we just kind of like take the modern understandings and modern ban logic and stuff. But that's not to say that everyone thought Aegislash was broken. Many people supporting Aegislash, bringing up solid points that they claimed Aegislash balanced and unbroken. For one, Aegislash had weaknesses to some very commonplace offensive typings. Fire, Ground, Dark. Yeah, the biggest ones that matter, especially in Mega. Leaving it weak to Landorus, Mega Charizard X, Bisharp, Excadrill, Garchomp, Heatran, Landorus, Talonflame, Charizard Y, Gliscor, Diggersby. What a centralizing Pokemon. Showing that its defensive presence wasn't all powerful. King Shield also somewhat limited as it doesn't protect against status, so Will-O-Wisp and Taunt make it unable to change from Blade form or just burn it out, giving Stall Breakers an advantage. Quite possibly the biggest argument made was that players needed to predict King Shield and outplay the 50-50 that was forcing onto players. So predicting a move is 50-50, but predicting a switch, that's raw skill. Damn, I wish I read this and broke it down back then. I think 2015 Verlisify could have pointed that one out. This argument went both ways. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Forcing somewhat luck-based, switching, double switching, all of that stuff that Smogon uses to make themselves the pinnacle of skillful play and elitism inside of Pokemon, not luck-based. Same thing how Scald isn't luck-based, but OHKO moves are. A situation that could drastically benefit one player and cripple the other one made OU unenjoyable to play in. I mean, OU still unenjoyable right now, says every Smogon poll. Voting phase was the close entirety of X and Y, Aegislash barely getting banned by a 62% ban majority. So it wasn't 66% ban vote, it was 62%. Interesting. Voting fades made some last-second vote changes. Some people second-guessed their original opinions, leading to a slight delay in tallying the votes. Oh! 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 I wonder how deep that goes. I wonder if there was any, like, coercion. Was the Aegislash vote actually stolen? Like, you guys don't remember in 2015 how nepotistic the Smogon community was. That, you know, especially with, like, the higher-ups and the elites. Oh, no. They had to delay it. They had to flip a couple of no's into a yes to get the Aegislash ban to go through. Oh my goodness, the lore. Mega Gengar. How do you ban Mega Gengar, dude? Also, just kind of like looking at the stats. Damage theory, I guess, add another recipe to the book. Also known as writing another idea in the notepad that has 800 video ideas and counting that I've been holding off of because it's not fun to work so hard on a video, get dislike botted, manually suppressed by YouTube, and all these other things. So, like, if I'm ever put back into the algorithm, you're going to see some of the most incredible content. Even though I feel like I'm still making really good content. This is the C tier content that I'm just putting out for now because until something changes and, you know, YouTube stops being stupid or my dislike botting is finally addressed by the support team or something. So, Mega verse items, damage theory. So we're going to add that to the recipe book. You guys getting that inside look for waiting 17 minutes into the video. The idea here being like, okay, what is the equivalent? Like, what is Life Orb? Like, is Life Orb 130 equal to 170? Or is Choice Band 120 equal to 170? Also, Gengar with no high base power moves means that, like, this just isn't good. Even back then, it's like 130 that speed ties with Jolteon, and then Jolteon has more damage with specs, in theory, or something like that. Then Gengar still has no defensive stats, no effective item. That's also why, like, Megas kind of failed, because item value beat out raw stats, even though it's like the scariest thing you could ever imagine. Let's see how Smogon oversells a 170 no item stat. Meet Mega Gengar, also known as the Stall Killer. Oh no, not the precious stall. Dude, Smogon players not survive 1 second in the schizophrenic Japanese anti-stall meta that's going on right now, and has been going on since Season 3 Pokemon Sword and Shield Generation 8. Mega Gengar is a Pokemon that single-handedly killed Stall thanks to its unique and nearly uncounterable strategy. Nearly uncounterable, let's hear it. First, Mega Gengar, one of the few Pokemon that have access to Shadow Tag. God forbid Gengar switches in. Actually, it has to Mega first before you can actually get that Shadow Tag, so that means they have to opt into getting stalled, or also just kind of like with Palafin, give them a free turn on a 170, 130. Alright. Trapping any non-Ghost type Pokemon with relative ease. This on top... Wow, yeah, the Ghost type thing was back in Generation 6 change, right? And they still banned Shadow Tag. Okay. This on top of impressive 170 and 130 allowed Mega Gengar to safely revenge kill many sweepers and wall breakers. So you're coming in negative. You're coming in -1 to revenge. Don't know how that's ban logic. Such as Life Orb Latios, Mega Gardevoir, Starmie, Tyranitar. Okay. This was the initial thought people had when seeing Mega Gengar, then realized there was a much darker, much more devastating strategy. So, for some reason they're talking about, like, I guess this is alright, because if we're talking about an archival article that wants to go over the ban history, you do talk about, like, this isn't the bannable Gengar. Let's talk about the bannable Gengar, Perish Song. Perish Song is somewhat an unused move in the first place. Mega Gengar made excellent use of it. The strategy was simple. As soon as the opposing team brings in their wall, if said wall fails to 2-hit KO Mega Gengar, then Mega Gengar could switch in, trap it, Perish Song, survive 2 weak hits, switch out on last turn, and just like that, remove for the rest of the battle. Teammate was free to start a sweep. A lot of weird stuff going on here because Baton Pass took a long time to get, like, discovered and then used a lot and become a flavor of the month. But this would, like, anti-trap while also setting up, and then the opponent blew their Mega and just doesn't get to play the game. Okay. Also, what a lot of the Mega decisions ignored is that this uses your Mega. So you trade Mega to remove the wall, and then that safely removed them for arrested battle, and a teammate was free to start a sweep. Wow. So they beat your strategy with the one-time thing. It's not like everyone could run a Mega Gengar. You had to have the Gengar. And if you see a Gengar on the team, probably going to be the Mega. And if they have two potential Megas on team, and they're both running Mega Stones, then one just straight up doesn't have an item, and if it's a Gengar, that is not a Pokemon. A regular Gengar without an item is not a Pokemon. This strategy worked on a variety of defensive Pokemon at the time, such as Deoxys, Clefable, Heatran, Skarmory, Slowbro, Megas, Venusaur, Mew, Chansey, Quagsire, Mungus, Chestnut, and Sylveon. I feel like for almost any Pokemon in the game, you can like rattle off a list of what it counters. Blissey, all special Pokemon. Except for, Skeledirge, because of the Unaware. This meant that Mega Gengar was capable of completely removing most defensive Pokemon on the opponent's team. Wow. Imagine Smogon playing in the anti-setup meta that exists. Imagine the anti-setup meta taking foot back then. Crazy. Such as the Heatran that was preventing your Talonflame from sweeping. Okay. And then Talonflame also being like a needs to be banned kind of threat. Allowing you to go to town on the rest of your opponent's team afterwards. Ignoring, you know, the Megas and all the other things that are acting in play. And also that you're stuck with a Gengar that will die to the slightest breeze. And you have no Mega. Okay, but just one wall pivot. This fact also made people weary of switching in their walls carelessly. The truth come out. Does Smogon player is bad. Because that's kind of this thing. They want comfort. They want slop. So if you play carelessly and get punished for it, nah, gotta ban the person that's punishing, not ask the person playing carelessly to improve. Your opponent could predict you to only trap them and then beat it with Mega Gengar. Switching your wall meant the Pokemon in front of you was also likely to have its way with your team, created a very unhealthy metagame that made Stall an extremely weak and unreliable playstyle. Oh! Wait, Stall being weak and unreliable is bad? Stall is so healthy for the game that it needs to be preserved and protected at all costs? Sure. But it wasn't just walls that were at risk of being trapped. Mega Gengar had Destiny Bond in its arsenal. Wow, trading! So you trade an offensive Pokemon with the Mega, you still have a Mega, and now your wall is free to move about the cabin. That's bad though, unhealthy. Opponent couldn't switch out thanks to Shadow Tag. They were left with no way out and forced to attack Mega Gengar. That actually sounds like cool and interesting gameplay dynamics. Lead to their own demise after Destiny Bond. Wasn't even possible to PP stall Destiny Bond by not attacking. Mega Gengar could taunt. So we're talking about a Gengar that's taunt, Destiny Bond, Perish Song. And I guess like protect or something for the trap. Ooh, so spooky. Yeah, Mega. So guarantee a kill on almost anything slower than Mega Gengar. The ultimate one-for-one Pokemon that costs you your one-off gimmick. Wow. It's also usable in defensive Pokemon that could kill Mega Gengar before Perish Song finished. Scizor, Ferrothorn, Gliscor, Hippowdon. Nothing was safe for Mega Gengar once it got set up. So it's also not like you're losing your Mega. You're also losing a turn. Because again, like you can't just Gengar, switch into the tank, then Mega, because the opponent's going to know what's up and then switch out, and then like now there's counters. And like that could also just go so terribly wrong. If this was like the whole mentality that's getting Gengar banned with like Perish Song shenanigans, then like what you do is you wait for them to bring in their Gengar, you switch out into the thing that can just deal with Mega Gengar, and they're going to like Mega Evolve Perish Song, hoping that you stay in on your tank. But now they're just going to Perish Song a sweeper Pokemon that can one or two shot Mega Gengar. And then you're just trading a sweeper for a Mega, which just sounds like the biggest win. But because Gengar can do that, because Gengar can minus its team, it needs to be banned. Is there something I'm missing? Because on the battle spot, there was not a lot of Mega Gengar. I do not remember it because it's just not a good Pokemon, as we can also see from like the whole Freedom Cup thing, Battle Stadium 3v3 being very similar to 6v6 with the usable Pokemon, how that plays out, and that if you just kind of play Freedom Cup, you actually don't just have everything being banned, shoved into one thing, and then it being just a mess. It's actually just a more enjoyable and balanced metagame. Verlisify always right kind of thing. Like, since I didn't see Mega Gengar, was the mechanic actually that if Gengar is on the field and you try to switch and it Megas, you don't switch, Like, was there something broken there? I don't think that is how the interaction would go. Wait a second, despite all this, there was one argument that some people made. Gengar needed to Mega Evolve before it could begin its job. This meant that Shadow Tag wasn't in effect until the turn after Mega Gengar evolves. So yeah, like, everything I said was valid, and there wasn't, like, some kind of extra broken mechanic against tank Pokemon. And this is another thing, where, like, okay, so now, for the ban logic, and this is something I've also been, like, drilling Smogon for almost the last decade on, is that if you're factoring in Stealth Rocks into all the damage calculations, and you're using, like, oh, blank needs to be banned because it one-shots everything after Stealth Rocks. I think that was a lot with Greninja, too, where it's like, well, Greninja has no counters if we already give it 10 different moves, 1,000 EVs, 3 items, Protean, all these movesets, and Stealth Rocks. No counters. Problem: the game does not start with Stealth Rocks. You have to minus yourself in some kind of way, or trade Stealth Rocks for Stealth Rocks to be a thing. If your Stealth Rock setter, like a Ferrothorn or something, just gets one-shot by a Medicham, or a Fire-type move, or something weird happens in the beginning, now you don't have Stealth Rocks, and you're just down. Or if you trade, like, a Focus Sash or something, now it's a 5v6, and then with all the Greninja arguments, there's just no acknowledgement of trading. It's not like every single time Greninja hits the field, it will always and forever 1-for-1 plus. If that happens, then yeah, we have a problem that might actually need some serious ban discussion. But that has never happened in the history of Pokemon, and that was still not Greninja. So even if Greninja does get a KO, now it's a 5v5, and Greninja is in a vulnerable, revengeable state, and potentially, like, took damage or traded a hit or something, especially into, like, a bulky Pokemon. So now that happens. Also, it's weird when it's like, oh, Greninja can have Focus Sash, so you just can't offensive it out. But where's my Stealth Rocks? Why do you get the Stealth Rocks, but I don't get the Stealth Rocks, but I get the Sash on your Greninja? The ban logic was never consistent. So now, turn given up for Stealth Rocks, turn given up for a Mega Gengar evolution. This is why Palafin's garbage, but Smogon players just can't deal and understand how to capitalize on a turn. This was made a bit easier by Gengar only having 110 speed before Mega Evolving. Even though the base 110 speed was very fast at the time, there were still Pokemon that could either just speed tie Gengar like Latios, outrun Gengar like Thundurus, as all these Pokemon just beat it, but exploiting this small window of one turn, where they're also giving up their Mega Evolution, was difficult. Gain too hard, ban. So, quick banned. What? They were quick banning like that back then? Even with all this argument against it? Like, that's another thing. You can't play devil's advocate if you're trying to have something completely removed. Because all devil's advocate does is justify why no ban should ever exist in Smogon. Okay, I'm thinking we turn this into a series, because we still have a long way to go. I think we get 3 parts out of this. The next one will be Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Lucario, Mega Mawile. Then we do the Oras bans, where we finally see that Greninja ban logic come in. Also, this reflecting on Aegislash didn't capture the spirit of the Aegislash article, because Smogon can only contradict themselves for ban logic and never has any consistency, because it's only about removing the thing. So yeah, we can actually get a lot more out of this in a very fun and interesting way. Yo, this is actually kind of hype. But now we don't want like a 2-hour video on every Smogon ban in Generation 6. Even though some people are down for the video essays. This one being like 30 plus minutes. Also not over, don't leave, wait. We can find the Aegislash ban, and then we can wrap it up with that before we start going into some other stuff, because this was the top dog. This was when you could watch it all go away, and then Smogon just stopped making sense. This was the moment Smogon fell. Next time. But not next time, because we're still finishing this video. Oh my god, Aegislash might actually need its own video, because just trying to like look for that little ban article, I couldn't find it immediately. I stumbled into a case study first. A Pokemon DB discussion that's all like NPC talking points. And then an article where Aegislash was so severe that it needed its own warranty of a post-Aegislash metagame breakdown. Aegislash still has enough to make its own video for. Bro, just so much weirdo stuff. People asking, why was Aegislash banned? People not coping. How did Aegislash downgrade from Ubers to UU, and then did it go back to OU or something? And I think it got banned from UU into UUBL. Oh, and of course it's our Stunkfist. Of course, it's those brain dead kids. And I can't find the original forum post as to why Aegislash was getting suspected. If you can dig that up for me and just like post it, YouTube will hide it, but I can actually like see the filtered comments. That will be very helpful for potential future videos and stuff. And my video on it, I had to delete a while ago because of the dislike botting and like the insane hates and threats I was getting from it. So yeah, we actually have an just like going through the history of Smogon in itself and applying it to like normal Pokemon, actually insane content. So there we go, guys. Hope you all enjoy the video and you get ready for the future videos. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.